Funded by Public Works Administration, established in 1934 to replace dilapidated tenants and provide low-cost housing for working families. We're speaking about NYCHA. Welcome, and we would like to share this video with you. Take a look at it, and we'll speak about it in a few minutes.
A terrified mom is speaking out, accusing her neighbor of terrorizing her and destroying her door with a hammer. And as you saw, it was all caught on camera. News 12's Noelle Lilly spoke exclusively with the victim, who is too afraid to show her face, and explains the NYCHA rule that's keeping her from moving.
This is what one Bronx mom saw on the other side of her Ring camera this month.
I just hear banging on my door, like with a hammer and a bat. Bing, 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 for no reason.
This mom has lived at her NYCHA apartment for years and says she's never had any problems until NYCHA McCasling moved in. In this video from a week ago, you can see a woman screaming and smashing this mom's door with a hammer and a bat, allegedly unprovoked.
We never had any encounters. She's dangerous. Nobody's helping me.
Police arrested McCasling for the incident, and the DA's office charged her with several crimes, including harassment and criminal possession of a weapon. But the charges are not bail eligible. According to court docs, she was released, and this mom says NYCHA has allowed her back into the building.
I feel like with situations like this, they should be the ones to say you have to go. And I just don't understand why they letting people out like that commit crimes.
NYCHA told me they would work with this mom on moving her to a new apartment, but occupancy rules state she'd have to downsize from the 2-bedroom she's lived in for over a decade to a 1-bedroom because her son is under the age of 6.
I'm just tired. I just want to be comfortable at home and to raise my son in a safe environment.
She recently got an order of protection, and the DA's office said a victim's advocate would be in touch. The suspect is due back in court May 8th. In Soundview, Noelle Lilly.
This is ridiculous to say the least.
What a maniac.
Now, if you are, let's say, a native New Yorker, then you know a thing or two about NYCHA, right? Which basically stands for New York City Housing Authority. Now, as my husband said earlier, it's a program that was started to help low to middle income
Working
earners,
families.
right? And also, if you have, let's say, maybe a zero, believe it or not, zero income, there's certain measures that's put in place to help those people as well through NYCHA, right? But the crazy thing for me is the fact that, you know, it's like when it comes to NYCHA programs, now, we've never received NYCHA, but growing up in New York, right? Native New Yorkers, we know about NYCHA and how crazy it could be. Put it this way: if you've never lived in New York, right, to experience it, and let's say you watch the news, whether it be on social media or on regular TV, there's always a story every single year about NYCHA failing in some way or form. It's usually during the winter months when winter is starting and it's freezing outside, and you have people crying out to NYCHA because the old school radiators not working, they're not getting heat, they're literally 24/7 in hats, scarves, and gloves. You think they're outside, they're dressed at home like an Eskimo. And no matter how many times they call, I think it's like at the time 411,
exactly.
You know, to make complaints on top of complaints on top of complaints. Nobody does nothing. They usually receive help, however, when they reach out to like the local network news station, and they make a big deal of it at that point. People suffer with broken toilets. The apartments are falling apart. I mean, fecal matter all in the hallway. It's crazy. If you find any building under the NYCHA entity, right, that happens to be decent, will be surprising. Because it's usually always at its worst. And for me, right, because I was doing some research to figure out, like, as far as the rent and everything else. And from what I've gathered, they claim that NYCHA, they claim that the occupant who has a NYCHA voucher, right, a person who's approved for NYCHA, all they have to pay is 30%. Let me just get it correct, right? Residents pay 30% of their gross or pay a flat rate depending on which is lower. With New York real estate, right? Apartment rates are at an all-time
Oh,
high.
yeah.
It's ridiculous. And a lot of people, for what they work for, they can't really afford it, right? So it makes it really hard. So you have people that apply for NYCHA. They claim that you could hear anything back, you know, within a 12-month period or a little bit less. But I used to hear about people being on, like, applying for NYCHA and being on the waiting list for years.
For a long time,
because
yeah.
there's so many people that need affordable housing. And
Right.
then once they get in there, of
Right.
course, they're not coming out.
Not at all.
Because everything else around them is astronomically high in price.
Yeah.
So, but, you know.
They would kind of deal with what little situation,
Right.
you know, that's there.
They would do it whatever little situation is
Right,
there.
right.
But this situation is crazy.
It's definitely different. Not to say that other situations haven't occurred, but
this could be a life-threatening situation. And
Yeah.
what really bothers me is the fact that this young lady, not only is she in possible danger, but she has a 6-year-old son as well.
right,
And
which
according,
could be terrifying to him, hearing that banging on the door constantly,
Of
and trying
course.
to get, you know, sleep or whatever. the case may
Exactly.
be. Yeah.
But what's so confusing is the fact that they claim that if you become a disturbance, you're disqualified from NYCHA for at least 3 years.
I guess they
Right?
didn't specify what type of disturbance, because that
Oh,
right there
that is a disturbance times 100, right?
If I do say so myself.
Exactly. It says here, let me see. Right. If you're a disturbance to neighbors within the last 3 years, you disqualify. So is this something new that she started? Was she in NYCHA before, prior to moving to this location? Because I think they disclosed that she was definitely, she lived there for a lesser time than the lady with the son. The
Yeah,
young lady
I
with the
believe
son
so.
was there since she
Probably,
was there for
about 10 years.
10 years,
Yeah, about
right?
10
And this
years.
other maniac on the loose, it seemed like she kind of just got there, but nevertheless, she should have been removed permanently,
Of course, yeah.
disqualified from NYCHA, and given a voucher to go to Creedmoor Mental Institution ASAP,
ASAP.
right? And stay there
Yeah.
and remain there until
further
eternity,
evaluation.
until further notice. Because it's crazy. Because like I said, imagine putting yourself in this lady's situation, putting yourself in her shoes for not
Right.
even a day. Because I couldn't even do it for an hour.
Yeah, it's very
Okay,
terrifying.
put yourself in her situation for, like, let's say hypothetically speaking, a nanoseconds of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Imagine that you're in a quiet environment, and then suddenly you hear boom, boom, boom on the door. You're thinking like, what the heck? I'm legal. Like, what's good?
You think it's
Is there
ISIS, right?
ice? Who's at the door? Like, it's just insane.
No,
It's insane.
I
Like,
said, no, it's not ISIS, it's just a maniac from across the hall.
well, and the odd part about it is, as you can see, right? She kind of waddled back across the hall, so she lives right. Oh, that would piss me off.
That's like
Because in my mind, right? In my mind, it's like this.
so many
crazy-
things. So many things go through the mind when you see things like that, because you know you're trying to be at peace in your unit, right?
Your domain, yeah.
So, and you hear this boom boom disturbance at the door. It's like, come on, man! Like, not again. You hear it every night at the same time, around the same time.
This crazy maniac of a beast. I don't know why I envision her pulled up with a chair at the door, looking at the peek hole, just looking through with one eye closed. Like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Basically waiting for somebody to come out of the apartment,
Yeah.
just waiting and anticipating.
Stalking.
Right, stalking. Imagine, like, you know, her son is under the age of 6, but I'm assuming he's still old enough to the point where she has to shuffle him up and down,
Right.
take him to school, pick him up.
Of course.
Imagine if you bump into this jackass in the hallway.
Oh man.
And she's as temperamental as she is.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? And the sad irony about it is she was locked up. But unfortunately, they let her go.
Of course. Yeah, because the charges weren't that dangerous.
Yeah, until she
So-
hit somebody literally with something.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, right? Can she not be arrested for defacing property? You're causing a disturbance and you're defacing property, and you're also putting somebody's life at risk.
Well-
Because God forbid, right? You don't look out your peek hole, you open, hypothetically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
you open your door just before she's about to hit the door. Because you have errands to do, you have life to
Right,
live.
right.
And she conks you over the head, then what?
Yeah, I don't know, but as far as her defacing the property, that goes as a strike against her while she's living there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess one too many strikes, then they would kind of like remove her.
Right.
But that have to be like for you or another neighbor to
Right.
report her
Constantly
constantly
complain.
in order for them to do something
But
about
let's not forget either, we're talking about NYCHA. They take forever to do something.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? This is a situation where Mayor Adams himself needs to get involved, pay close attention,
Mm-hmm.
and file the proper or legal
right.
things, put it in place, and get this lady removed before somebody is honestly hurt, because
I think that's really what they're waiting for.
That's not good.
Right?
That's not good.
Because anybody in a unsound, I would say, mind would just kind of like pretty much catch her in the stride of her knocking at the door. You know, open the door and do what you got to do to her, and then you know you do that and you'll be the one that's in trouble, right? So
pretty much.
You know, the mind wanders.
I can't even say hypothetically, because you know, even though there's so many complaints out there, right, and they know to themselves that this lady is creating a great disturbance and could possibly cause major harm, right?
Yeah.
And
they rather wait for that to happen.
If you react, it's a problem. But I'm sorry, I would have to take matters into my own hands if I'm not getting any help.
We're
gonna have to go there.
I get it. Yeah,
we're gonna have to go there.
It's tough. I get it.
We're gonna have to go there really bad, really badly, because
she's very persistent too. Like, come on,
she wouldn't give up.
She wouldn't give up.
What a dummy! And what's even more crazy is the fact that I'm not hearing anything about like a man, a boyfriend, a husband, or anything. So who's to say that maybe she's a single mom? You know, who knows? And in this instance, this kid needs his mom, whether she's single or not, because we can't afford to have anything happen to her or her child.
Right.
You know, and they need to act fast and continue to allow, you know, and continue to put safety measures in place.
Safety.
So that way, if you're mentally ill, you are dealt with in a particular manner. And that's just pretty much all that I could honestly say about this situation.
So, I mean...
Anything else?
Besides her being a maniac,
Maniac on the loose.
That's New York for you. You know, there's tons of maniacs all over the place.
Right.
It's just that you got to be aware of it. And unfortunately, if circumstances lead up to the fact of where you're not financially stable enough to afford a more decent dwelling, then, you know what I'm saying, you have to, you know, you have to deal with NYCHA and, you know, just pretty much thank God for NYCHA sometimes. You know,
in some instances,
it's good.
Yes,
it has its good and its bad. It provides a shelter over your head, but as far as the accommodations and all the other things, utilities and stuff like that, they might lapse in that.
To get anything fixed, it takes a long time.
But at the end of the day, it's a shelter over your head. It's better than staying on the streets, right? You might have to double up with a winter hat, gloves, and all this other stuff.
Because you're not getting any heat.
Even though you might be indoors, but at least you're still safe. She's had this 2-bedroom apartment for the longest while, and just because of this maniac, she's gonna have to be downsized to now a 1-bedroom.
Right, because her son is under 6.
Under 6.
The way how this works, for those of you who don't know, if you have children, let's say opposite sexes, boy and girl, you qualify for a 2-bedroom, right? If you don't have a husband or whatever, they figure the daughter could pair up with you. However, let's say if you do have a husband, depending on the type of program, or a boyfriend or whatever, right? But let's just say for namesake, you have a husband and you have a daughter and a son, you would then qualify for a 3-bedroom apartment. Okay, each kid get their own room, you and your husband get their own room. But if you're single, your daughter's gonna have to stay with you in the room and your son gets his own room. But because her son is under the age of 6, they figure, listen, you would have to downsize to a 1-bedroom,
share a bed with mom or something.
He could honestly stay with you, sleep with you, or whatever
in a crib,
which is crazy. But that's just the rules and how it goes. If you have 5 kids and 3 girls get 1 room and 2 boys get the other room.
Right.
So that's it. But I mean, like I said, self-sufficiency, there's nothing better than that, because you get to move on your own accordance. And if things are rough, don't have any more kids. Don't bring any more kids into a negative situation. But
be
instead,
patient about it.
Try to get a resolution. Try to meet a resolution with the current kids that you have. If you have any, if you don't, even better. That way you could work on yourself. And then by the time everything irons out, then you can have more kids. Because imagine the stress from certain situations and then you having more kids on top of it. It just makes it way worse.
Yeah. And trust and believe. The human mind and the human body is capable of doing so much if you just allow it to. So a lot of times you go through a slight depression when it comes to accomplishments and stuff like that, but just try not to really let it get the best of you. If you overcome that, yes, you can become a lot better than what you are at the current moment. So just pretty much just don't give up. Become the greater you. You know what I mean? Just don't give up.
Hopefully the lady who's going through this situation, hopefully there's a resolution that's met really quickly. And in the meanwhile, continue to become independent. So therefore, hopefully you would never ever have to go through something like this.
Let us know in the comment section exactly what you guys think, and hopefully you have not been through a situation like this. If you have, just please let us know. That way we can, you know, commentate about it and kind of laugh about some of the stupid things that happen in these type of dwellings. So until next time.